Hello and welcome to Inside the Avatar Studio. Inside the Avatar Studio brings together innovative leaders from the virtual technology frontier to discuss their perceptions, perspectives, and predictions of what being virtual means in today's society. I'm your host, Kevin Feenan, and with me today is Jessica Lyon. Jessica has been the heart and soul behind the Phoenix Viewer Project, which develops the Phoenix and Firestorm viewers for Second Life, as well as for other virtual worlds. Before Phoenix, she created and led the support and QA teams for the Emerald Viewer Project. An activist for user rights in Second Life, Jessica is often in discussions with Linden Lab, fighting for features and functionality in order to improve the user experience. Jessica, thank you very much for being on the program.
Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Cool.
It's kind of interesting that you sort of need to go around the world to find somebody who's already in your own backyard.
It's a funny coincidence that actually Kevin and I, Phelan here and I actually live in the same city, but we still haven't managed to hook up for coffee yet.
What's it been, 3 years now?
3 years. Yeah, we've been saying we'll meet up for about 3 years.
Yeah, I figured what we'll have to do is go to a conference somewhere and we'll have a coffee.
Yeah. We'll have to go to the next Second Life SLCC and we'll meet up there or something.
Yeah, there we go. That'll be interesting. It is kind of interesting. It's not quite the first thing I was going to ask you, but actually now that we've sort of gone down that road, how do you find this whole environment where you can be meeting people, sort of in your backyard, but also around the world? I mean, do you find it from your perspective kind of crazy, or is it like second nature to you?
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's amazing that we have this. I mean, before Second Life, there was Yahoo Pool. I was a tournament director for a pool league in Yahoo Pool and Yahoo Chat, and that was pretty cool because you can meet people from anywhere around the world. And then Second Life came along, and here you have a medium where you can kind of actually see other people, even though it's just the representations of their avatars. You really kind of feel like it's more intimate. You feel like you know them better just by having an avatar associated to the voice or to the text that they're writing. And I've always found Second Life to be an amazing thing that I can meet. Some of my best friends are from countries all over the planet that I'll never get to meet them in real life because they're just too far away. And having the opportunity to have a medium like this where you can meet people, become very close friends with people, and actually feel that closeness. It's a little different than just a Yahoo chat room where you're friends, but you don't really have any visual association to them. And whereas in Second Life you do. Of course, that changes with there are some people who change their avatar from minute to minute. So in that way, it kind of breaks that visual. But it's amazing.
Do you find though that with the ability to I guess there's two things I'm sort of wondering about from there. One is, the ability of people to change their avatar appearance in here, right? So, there's a difference between changing your avatar name and changing your appearance, right? So, right. At least I find that it seems to be the case. Do you find that even if somebody comes in here and they decide that, I'm no longer going to be, Jessica with the cat ears and the tail, but I'm going to be Jessica, the little mechanical dog that's sitting and staring us in the face here.
Hi, Alaska.
Is that a lot? Oh, okay, that's Alaska.
Alaska Udemo.
But people get to change their avatar appearances in here, and I find, quite often I find that it doesn't really impact the way that I relate to people sometimes.
Perhaps it doesn't. It in a way it does for me. So there's a couple things you got to think about. First of all, the presentation the person wants to, or who they want to present. So there are guys in SL who have avatars that are female. There are females in Second Life who have avatars that are male. And that brings the whole thing in, whether do I call them a he or do I call them a she? And so what I've always done is whatever they present as to me, that's what I'm going to refer to them as. If they have a female avatar, I'll call them a she. even if I know otherwise. I think it's just kind of a mutual kind of respect kind of thing. I don't know, it's etiquette, I guess. And but if you get to know someone who has looked a certain way for a long period of time, and then suddenly they change their appearance drastically, I find that it kind of throws me a little bit. But of course, I still know who they are by that time. Whereas if I see someone, so I guess we sort of associate their avatar name to their avatar, and if they change the avatar a little bit, we still know it's them because there's the name is there. But you know, if somebody were to, if we had our viewers set to see display names and they changed their avatar and their display name, and you didn't actually see the username, you wouldn't recognize them at first glance. So it's an interesting paradox.
I find it to a certain extent it is. I mean, you know, especially when you compare it back to things like IRC, like news groups, like Yahoo groups, and these various different chat rooms that have been available over the years and now are slowly, I don't know, I guess sort of being absorbed by Facebook. But
yeah.
I mean, as people have this ability to define and redefine who they are, sometimes I find it's very disconcerting.
It can be if you get used to somebody a certain way, but I guess it's no different than in real life. I mean, if you've gotten to know me to have, well, now I've got gray hair and all that fun stuff, but if I were to suddenly dye my hair bleach blonde, that's going to be concerning too to you, because suddenly there's a difference. The visual has changed. So I suppose that extends into real life as well as virtual worlds.
Yeah. Your primary occupation is as a photographer,
right?
And I'm wondering what sort of, because I guess you're a very interesting person from the standpoint of, here it is, you have this essentially an arts type background, right?
What the hell am I doing in viewer development, right?
Well, sort of. You know what I mean? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I wanted to go down this road in terms of what sort of drew you into Second Life as a professional photographer, and then sort of subsequent to that, what the heck did you get involved with quality assurance for?
Well, I often ask myself every night I go to bed, and I say, what the hell was I thinking? It's been a long roller coaster ride with the viewer development and whatnot. So first of all, I should make it clear, I'm not a coder. I can read code a little bit. I can understand what it does. If I had to code something from scratch, I couldn't do it if my life depended on it. Fortunately, I have a team of very brilliant people, of developers, support folks, amazing people that make up the Phoenix Firestorm team. And without them, there would be no Phoenix and Firestorm. I'm not Phoenix and Firestorm. I'm just kind of steering the ship. And so what drives me into viewer dev from an artsy photographic background? Well, originally it was a friend of mine who discovered Second Life back in 2005 and introduced me to it. And I thought it was cool, I guess. I was into like I say, I used to be a tournament director for a pool league. And so I kind of like the online socialization thing. And Second Life kind of became that to me. But when I first got into Second Life, I was griefed a lot. And a lot of, I went to sandboxes of all places. And so I experienced a lot of griefers. And it made me angry, actually. It made me, why are they attacking me? Well, I haven't done anything wrong. And then as I learned more about Second Life and became more skilled in Second Life, I started finding that I learned how to deal with them, first of all. And then I would see other people getting grief by them, and that bothered me. So then I would try to help them. And, then I became a mentor. And I've always found Second Life very rewarding for me in the way of helping people. So how does that tie into viewer development? Well, improving the user experience. That's always been my thing in one way or another. And it's completely different from my real life in many ways. Although I'm the type of person that will hold the door for an old lady or help her across the street as well. But in Second Life, I find I have even more capability of helping people And I think that's really cool. And so I started with Emerald, for example. When I joined that team, there was no support. There was no quality testing or anything like that of anything that was going out. And I saw, a void here. We can improve everything if we have a support team. We can improve it if we have some way of testing and checking our code to make sure everything that goes out works and it doesn't screw people up. So that's when I became that. And then when everything kind of started to fold with Emerald, I was faced with a dilemma. Here I am. I've got this. I've been helping people, and that makes me feel good. People ask me all the time, "Why do you do it?" Because it makes me feel good to help people. And so it's not for nothing. I actually really enjoy it. It's the thank yous that you get. That's huge. And so then when things were failing with Emerald, and it was looking as though all these people I've been helping were about to be left screwed, it really, really bothered me. And I took the leap to form the Phoenix project. And here we are today. So my real life has absolutely very little to do with my second life. I've never been good at code. I've never been good at any of that kind of stuff. But I have been good at managing people. I run a business in real life. I've had several businesses in my lifetime that I've run. I've got college degrees and whatnot for business management. I'm good with people. I'm good with working with people. I'm good with running businesses. And in a way, that's what the Phoenix Project is, and that's where I fit in. I have a team of fantastic people who respect me, and I respect them. And together, we basically try to make things happen. And here we are with the Phoenix and now the Firestorm viewers.
You mentioned that your real life work and your second life work are quite obviously sort of two different worlds. What do people think when you tell them that you're a cartoon character in a prim-based economy?
I stopped telling people about Second Life in about 2007.
Oh, okay.
I learned the hard way that you cannot explain Second Life to someone who doesn't already know what Second Life is. You just can't explain it. And the more you try, the more they look at you like you're some alien from outer space. People they have to try it. And to try to explain it to them is next to impossible. So I've somewhat given up. In a way, I kind of have these two totally different lives going on. I've got my Second Life thing going on that most people in my real life have no idea about. And I've got this photography business going on in real life that most people in Second Life have no idea about. And I'm okay with that. In my real life, because I do a lot of photojournalism and news stuff, they would think I'm nuts. I mean, they would absolutely think I'm crazy. And what's worse is, the people I have told, oh, well, I'm, project manager for this viewer project, and we have, 80 some people, volunteers working on it. We developed, these two viewers, and we've got hundreds of thousands of people using them. And they say, well, how much money are you making? Well, nothing.
Twice as much as what I made last year. Right?
Yeah, they say, what? Why aren't you making money? Well, because it's not about money. How can it not be about money? So people in real life just don't understand the whole open source thing. The whole thing of it's not about money for me. It's about just helping people, and that's being paid for me. And people in real life don't seem to get that. People in Second Life do. So I've kind of, over the years, separated my real life from my Second Life. And it works pretty well that way. I gave up telling people about Second Life.
This whole concept about it not being about the money, and believe me, I fully understand where you're coming from, because if I was in this for the money, I'd be gone a long time ago. Do you find that the type of person that this type of environment tends to attract has very similar outlooks and I almost want to say qualifications, but I mean, we've talked in previous episodes with other people in terms of the intelligent quotient of people that tend to be attracted to Second Life. In general, seems to be on the higher end of things, and I'm wondering whether or not this type of environment also tends to, on a longer term basis, also attract people who are maybe more service oriented.
I'll have to start by saying I think Second Life attracts people of every possible corner of the earth, people of every possible background. If I were to just say that they all have one thing in common, though, I would say that, and I hope I don't get shot for saying this, but I think everybody comes to Second Life because they're missing something in their real life. It doesn't mean it's the same thing, just something. Something from their real life is missing, and they're finding it in Second Life. And in doing so, and I know a lot of people, I have friends who have phobias of people, of lots of people, groups. I have friends who have these phobias of open spaces. I know friends who have been crippled in Iraq and just can't get out of their house. I think everybody that comes to Second Life comes here for their own reason because something is missing from their real life, whether it be they're not as good at social activities in real life as they are in Second Life. Regardless what it is, I don't think it's hard to say that it's only the smartest people come to Second Life, or it's only the people that are. I think it's a bit of everything, and everybody comes to Second Life for their own reason. But if there's one commonality, I think it's because something is missing from real life.
As you're saying that, there's a really loaded question that I would really love to ask, and I'm debating whether I should or not.
Go for it. I'm used to dealing with hard questions.
Well, as part of some of the studies that I've done, going through my doctorate in management psychology and what have you. I mean, we talk about this idea of modernism versus postmodernism versus traditionalism, right? I mean, the three big pillars of psychology, I guess. And to a large extent, it is part of the reason why people are missing things in their lives because
of virtual worlds.
Well, no, not because of virtual worlds, but I'm going to get in trouble for this question. I already know I'm going to get in trouble for this question. Is it because religion has failed us and we simply have not, as a modern society, figured out how the heck to build a proper community?
Oh, that's interesting. That is a tough question. Well, religion, and I got to say, I believe in a God, but I'm not specifically religious. I don't believe in any particular religion, for example.
Right. I guess. Yeah, but I'm thinking more in terms of, because I mean, you look at Europe and how in almost every town that you go to, I mean, the religion actually part of it really doesn't matter. I mean, the central.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, what does religion give us? Religion gives us a purpose, right? It gives us a meaning to our lives. Why are we here? And so, does Second Life? I understand the question. I don't even know if I can answer that question. That's a really tough one.
Well, I mean, it just as you were talking about it just one of those silly things that sort of came to mind is that we keep seeing these things where we develop some of these very incredibly strong communities as part of what you've developed along with the team that you've got this very strong community that is almost, and I'm going to take a leap of faith here, so to speak. It's probably to you guys almost like a family, right?
It is.
The same as our little Rockcliffe community is like a family. Right? I mean, it is to a certain extent, it's like being part of something deeper. But yet, when you look inside the communities that you live in, where you don't even know who your neighbors are next door to you.
Right.
Right?
Well, and the other thing is the Second Life, and I don't just mean Second Life, but I mean virtual worlds in general, and not only virtual worlds, but even social media, is easier in many ways than real life. So, for example, rejection is easier to deal with. People who piss you off are easier to deal with. I mean, everything is easier to deal with. You're not so worried about it. It's also easier to approach people in Second Life or in a social media environment because, like I say, rejection is easier. So, but in that same way, maybe that's what makes it so good because you are able to approach people easier. I have friends who are antisocial, but they love the social that they get from Second Life or from within Second Life, but they couldn't do it in real life, you know. And but is it too bad? Is it too much? For example, my daughter, who's 13 now, she'll be sitting next to her best friend, and the two of them are texting each other instead of actually having a conversation. And I mean, I take her to the movies the other day, and she's texting me at the movies, and she's sitting right next to me. And you know, it occurs to me that in that same way, maybe it's too much of a good thing. I don't know.
Well, yeah, at least they're not bothering the people in the row behind you, I guess.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't the reason she texted me. It was just because it's technology and it's fun and it's easier to text. And,
Yeah.
you know, I said, don't you ever call your friends? And she, no, because we don't have anything to talk about. I said, well, what do you text about? Oh, all kinds of stuff. I said, okay, wait, you're telling me you have nothing to talk about, but yet you've got lots of stuff to text about. Well, yeah, because I can think of things, we can think of more things to talk about in texts than we can in you know, talking. And maybe Second Life is like that too, I don't know. But it's a little bit, it kind of made my head spin a bit. I hate texting. I really hate it. I have to deal with it sometimes, even with what I do as a business, but texting drives me up the wall. And when I receive these texts, and of course I've got a BlackBerry, and with a keyboard, she's got this little touch phone, and she can send me like 15 messages before I even type 3 words. You know, I don't even have a kid. How do they do this?
They got small fingers.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Oh my goodness. The actually, it's kind of interesting considering what we were talking about. Well, I mean, what you and Mel were talking about just before we got on air here. You know, the whole introduction of voice and how it sort of changed the flavor and the dynamic of how people interrelated with one another, right? The whole concept that, you know, originally people were like, oh my God, this is going to destroy the fabric of the universe. And now there's people that just can't live without it.
I have friends. I have one particular friend who I ran into, and I made the mistake of telling him about Second Life and what I do here. And first of all, he thinks I'm insane for not trying to make $1 million. And second of all, he thinks Second Life is evil. He thinks any kind of thing like this that takes you away from real life experiences to immerse you into artificial, in his point of view, it's an artificial experience, ruins the fabric of society. And I can see where he's coming from, but I disagree with him. We've had a lot of heated arguments, and we got to the point where we realized we're just going to have to agree to disagree. But you know, I do see his point. On the other hand, this is the way it's going. You can't back this out now. I remember Philip Rosedale being asked during a TED Talk he did a while back, many years ago, which I actually watched again just, I don't know, about a month ago. I came across it by accident and watched it. And he was asked the same thing. Isn't this, you know, type of thing going to destroy the fabric of real society? And he answered, to paraphrase, something along the lines of, I can't back it out. And even if I did, somebody else is going to do it. This is just the way it's going to go. And there's no stopping it now. So we make the best of what we have.
You bring up a very interesting point in terms of this difference between, I guess, what your friend is sort of calling real experience versus an artificial experience. And I guess one of the things that now I'm dying to ask you is that how do you find that your experiences with inside, like all this stuff that you've been doing in here, how do you find that they're not taking his side for a moment, how do you find that they're not artificial?
You can't call them artificial experiences because any experience is an experience, whether it be on my computer screen or whether it be in my car or, you know, ordering food at McDonald's or anything. Every experience is an experience. And I'll tell you something, I've learned a lot in Second Life. I've learned a lot of life experience things, a lot of life skills. I've learned a crazy amount about people in general in Second Life, especially since the support with Emerald and now doing this. The things you learn. I mean, Second Life is a wonderful place for research on human behavior. It's incredible how much variation we have. We got all these people all over the world, all in one little world here with us, and we can talk to any one of them with the flick of our mouse. How can you not call that a real experience? In fact, if anything, I think Second Life broadens society in many ways, because it opens up more possibilities now than we could. I mean, sure, I could go out to, Tim Hortons or some coffee shop and have a coffee and sit down and talk to the person next to me. Or I could come to a place like this where there's 30 people here and we can all have a conversation together. And it's not a cartoon. There are real people behind every single avatar here. Real people with real feelings, real emotions, real lives. And so it depends how you look at it. From his perspective, I think he's looking at it wrong. And I think if he were to give it a chance and actually spend a bit of time in Second Life, he would start to see my point of view, and I suspect all of ours here point of view. Second Life is a good thing.
Doesn't that play to a certain extent, though, into the same, what's the term I'm looking for? I guess it's sort of the same rhetoric that we hear from a lot of other people in terms of, oh my God, my kids are sitting down, they're watching 6 hours, well, I guess now it's 6 hours of internet per day, but I mean, it used to be 6 hours of TV per day. Oh my God, they're not really doing anything real. And yet... Well,
I have to disagree with that too in this case. In the case of television, yeah, I can see that, because you're watching these scary movies or action movies or so all this. There's so much pointlessness on TV, and to be honest, I don't even watch TV very much. Reality shows that aren't even displaying reality, but they're called reality shows. It's stage drama is what it is. Second Life is real. It's just like a real life, except it's on your computer screen and you're actually interacting with real people. You're learning from real people. You're learning in general from being in Second Life. I mean, like I've in all my time I've spent on the internet with Yahoo, IRC before that, and all these various mediums, I've learned more in Second Life than I have anywhere else, especially about people and people's behavior, and it's fascinating. So it's not the same, but I still think 8 hours of Second Life is probably a little bit too much, mind you. I think most of us probably spend about that much every day in Second Life. But I don't think it's taking us away from real society. If anything, I think it's kind of packing, our real lives together into a smaller place where we can concentrate it even more. Right.
So what are we missing then that would reach out to somebody like, this fellow who looks at this and says, this is nuts. Why are you even bothering?
Tough question, and I've tried. I have tried and tried and tried to bring him around to at least try to see my point of view, to even at least log into Second Life and give it a try. To him, he looks at the screen and he sees a cartoon character. He sees television, basically, a cartoon on television, and he doesn't understand that the person I'm sitting next to is a real person. And we communicate, we're really communicating, just like as if you and I were sitting in a coffee shop. The only difference is we can do it from the comfort of our home. His argument is, yes, but leave the comfort of your home. That's the whole point of being social. You should be able to leave your house and go find a group of people and start up a conversation. And okay, I get that point of view. It's easier to be in Second Life, though, and you still have that same experience.
Yeah, I know in my particular case, I mean, one of the big things that I find is interesting is, I mean, we get technology seems to have been driving our lives towards this thing where everything has to be done 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Right? And it's sort of like, well, something, I want to have those experiences, But, if it's going to take me an hour and a half to drive out to wherever it is that everybody's going to be meeting,
exactly.
then is it really a worthwhile use of my time?
And it costs money to do that. It costs money. It costs time away from your family, which again is another one of his arguments, is that if you're spending time in Second Life, you're not spending time with your family. But I say yes, but you're saying that I should be spending time outside.
Well, no, your daughter can still text you from.
Yeah, no kidding. but I mean, that's the thing is, it's so much easier to do that from here. Here we can do it. It doesn't cost us anything. It costs us our monthly internet bill, which is nothing compared to one outing for one night at a pub or at a bar or at a rave or wherever people go. It doesn't cost you anything. You can drink in Second Life without getting addicted to alcohol. Heck, you could even do drugs in Second Life without getting addicted. Because you're not actually, your avatar's doing it. Your poor avatar. Not good for your avatar, by the way. I do not promote drugs or alcohol for your avatars. Just saying. But, I just think, I think too much of Second Life is probably a bad thing. But I think if you can make a balance between how much Second Life you have but also don't forget you have a real life that you have to take care of and real problems you have to take care of. Because some people come to Second Life almost like it is a drug. Because you get so enrolled in your Second Life experience and in your life that you tend to forget all your real life problems. And that's a main reason people do drugs, because it helps them forget all their problems. The problem is with doing that is that your real life problems aren't getting dealt with. Nothing's being done there. And so I do know people who spend copious amounts of time in Second Life and completely forget their real life. And so that's the extreme. And that extreme, I will agree with my friend, Second Life is a bad thing if you're going to use it to that extreme. But if you balance it, Second Life is, I think, beneficial to society.
So let me ask you a little bit of a side question on that one. Then, out of most of the people that you've met with inside Second Life, do you find that however you want to term it, a good proportion or a little proportion, whatever, are actually here? They get in here and then they find, I want to do something. They don't want to come in and just be here or just to dance or go shopping or whatever else. Is that they come in here and they want to actually build things. Do you find that most people that you run into are sort of those people who are looking for something to do and something to build?
When I was a mentor, I spent a lot of time, obviously, at the welcome areas and help islands. And sadly, I hate to report, the most common question from new people in Second Life is, actually there was two really most common questions. One was, how do I make money? And the other is, can I have sex with you, or where can I have sex? Or where can I go to have sex? Which is kind of sad, and in fact, for a while, Second Life was getting a bad rep because of that. But what drives us, even in real life society, it's sex and money. I mean, watch any TV commercial with beer, and you've got guys and girls in bikinis advertising this beer. What do guys and girls have anything to do with in bikinis? Have anything to do with beer? But it sells, right? So I suppose it's to be expected. People come into Second Life thinking they can come here and have sex. But once they've been in Second Life for a while, once they've met people, in my experience, once they've made a friend or two, it starts to change, and then there's a social aspect of it. If they don't get the opportunity, in my experience, if they don't get the opportunity to meet someone real, by real I mean a genuine person, not just there to troll them or make fun of them, or they stay in Second Life. There is a social thing in Second Life, and I think that's probably the biggest part of Second Life. And then once they've created a bit of a social circle with friends, then people start to want to expand beyond that. Some will want to build things. Some will build and sell things. Some will discover they can make money by buying regions and renting out parcels, although not so much lately. And so they sort of all sprout off differently. And it's hard to say what divisor there is between who extends into what area of Second Life. Some become scripters. Some get hooked on making particles, But I think the first thing that really hooks you in Second Life is social. Getting to know someone and becoming a friend with them is what keeps people coming back into Second Life.
Right. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent from that particular point, because it was actually it's something I've been playing around with in terms of an idea, and I'd like to get your perspective on this. When you look at Phoenix or Firestorm as a product, are these personalities?
What do you mean?
Well, insofar as when we're teaching people about virtual worlds here at Rockcliffe, a lot of what we're teaching them is how the virtual world and the interfaces that we deal with, whether it's your product or the Linden Lab viewer or 3 or 4 of the other ones that are out there, it's to a certain extent it sort of makes the technology seamless. But one of the things I was starting to wonder about over the last couple of months, and as soon as Bevan said we're going to get Jessica on, I'm like, oh, cool, I can ask this question, does the viewer itself almost become a personality, a friend, so to speak, which is not just something that passes us through into that experience, but also becomes part of the reason why we want to engage with that experience, as compared to something like WebEx, where the technology is very much blatant, in your face, in the way. Right?
So the viewer becomes very personal to people. I remember when Viewer 2.0 came out, I was, first of all, we were all disappointed. I was amazed even 6 months after 2.0 came out, and somebody would mention 2.0 or Viewer 2 in a group chat, and anger came out from all over the place. People actually got angry at just the mention of Viewer 2. And that I found was fascinating, because it really demonstrated to me that people find the viewer to be very personal. And that's something I think perhaps Linden Lab doesn't quite get. Let me think how I can word this. Your experience in Second Life, your avatar, and once you've spent maybe 2 months in Second Life, your avatar becomes an extension of who you really are. It becomes an extension of Jessica. It's more than just a cartoon character. The viewer, the interface, becomes an extension of your hand, of how you do things. It's like having a car, and you use your car to drive from A to B. Well, in Second Life, you use your viewer to get from A to B. You use your hammer to make an object in real life. In Second Life, you use the viewer. So the Second Life becomes very personal to people. The options and functionality in Second Life becomes very personal. Your Second Life really becomes an extension of your real life. It becomes part of your real life. It's not just a game. It's not just an interface. It's actually an extension of who you are. It expands who you are. And when Linden Lab, or even us, make a change to the viewer, or break something by accident or otherwise, people get really pissed off. When Linden Lab comes around and says that you can't do this anymore because of this, people get really pissed off, because that's like threatening their life. It's threatening that extension of their real life. It's threatening how they do and work and function in this virtual world, which is an extension of their real life. You can't give somebody something and let them get used to using it and enjoying it, and then suddenly take it away and not expect people to get really, really pissed off, because it's become part of that existence. And the viewer absolutely becomes an extension of everything you do. And when the viewer changes, it affects you in a serious way. And sometimes a change will be liked by some people. But of course, there's, 1 million people in Second Life, maybe? 60,000, we'll say, a day logging into Second Life. I don't know the actual numbers. You're not going to make a change and have all of them like it. We've learned this. Trust me, it doesn't happen. We come up with something and we think, hey, this is fantastic. Everybody's going to love it. No, it doesn't work that way. Some will love it. Some will absolutely hate it. and you have to try to find a balance between the bunch. So improving the user experience becomes very complicated when you take into account that everybody has a different perspective on that user experience and what would improve it or make it worse for them.
Right. So let me ask you this then: how is that different from good ergonomic design?
It's tough. It's like making an ergonomic mouse that fits every different size of hand. You can't do it. You just can't do it. You can try. You can try to make, a mouse with. You can make 3 mice of different sizes. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
I used the wrong. I shouldn't have used a mouse. I'm a cat. So you can come out with 3 different sizes, which would translate for us as options. And we believe in options. And by giving the user lots and lots of options, we tailor to as many people as possible by letting them choose how they want their viewer to work. Some people like to have their IM windows, for example, all docked together with tabs. Some of them like to have a separate IM window for every conversation they've got going on. Now, I think that's craziness, but the people who do like that think my method is craziness. Who am I to judge? If they like to use the viewer that way, let's give them the option to use it that way. Options are good. The problem with options, though, is it becomes a support nightmare. Because everybody uses the viewer different, it's set up differently for everybody, and so it's different and it's harder to support. When a person says, this window's not showing up, we have to understand how they've got their viewer set up. And then there's the learning curve. The more options you give, the tougher the learning curve is. So in some ways, options are bad, but in more important ways, options are good, and that's why we have a philosophy that options are good. To counterweight the problem of the learning curves and to counterweight the support issues, we have classes. We do free classes every day of the week. Our support team does them, and there they teach you how to fix your problems. They teach you how to use the viewer, use the options, what each option does, and I think it's a good balance what we have going. There are some viewer projects. This isn't about Phoenix or Firestorm. Let me just say Linden Lab doesn't believe in options because of the reasons that I mentioned. It is a support nightmare. It is a stiffer learning curve, and it makes the viewer more complicated. And when you open up the preferences in Firestorm or Phoenix, you get a little bit overwhelmed because there's a lot of stuff there. But I believe that the best way to tailor to as many people as possible is to give as many people as possible the options to use the viewer the way they want to.
Oh, okay.
You're on.
sorry, I'm on. Okay, sorry. No, that's actually kind of cool because I guess this idea of the viewer is sort of being a skin and an extension of the individual and the personality. There's I think so many different analogies that we could draw into other different areas. Yeah. It's the people's love-hate relationship with Facebook, for example, where Facebook keeps changing the interface. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And sort of where we sort of see that going or not going as the case may be.
we have to so we do have some dilemmas. We have to try to keep up with Linden Lab. So when they make a significant interface change, we're probably going to have to pick it up, and that's going to affect our users. In some ways we have to stay up with technology, and technology does mean innovation. Innovation means change. So we do have to change things from time to time, but we try to do it wherever possible. We give you the option to continue using it the old way. That's not always possible, though.
Right. Do you find that there's a difference in the way people approach the viewer depending upon whether or not they're using it with inside a Second Life environment compared to an OpenSim environment?
To be honest, I'm not sure. we hear that there are a lot of people using Firestorm now on other grids, which we didn't even know that it worked well on other grids, because we can't test it on the other grids. Second Life is where most of the people are. We can help the most people in Second Life, and so our focus is still in Second Life. We would like to expand into other grids. In fact, we're hoping we can pull in some developers from other grids even that can help us to make Firestorm a little bit more functional in their grids. But it's hard to say because although I've been to several different grids, I don't really spend much time on them. Second Life is kind of where it's at for me for now, anyway. So I don't know. I can't really answer that. I don't know how they use the viewers over there.
No, it's okay. I was just wondering if you had noticed anything along those lines. I mean, we keep hearing about this exodus from Second Life over to Unity and to OpenSim and to Open Wonderland and all these other different projects that are going on out there, and yet people seem to, after a while, keep coming back to Second Life. Right?
It's the social. It's the social. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for the social connections that people have in Second Life, they would have gone to some other grid by now. The trouble is, there's a lot of grids. I'll try not to name any one because all the rest will say I should name them too. But let's just say Grid A. People want to, leave Second Life. They're fed up. They're done. They don't want to deal with it anymore, and they want to go to Grid A. They go to Grid A, but all their friends are still in Second Life. So they come back to Second Life. The only way there's going to be an exodus from Second Life is if everybody leaves at the same time and goes to Grid A or B or C or D. And if that happens, Grid A, B, or C or D, or all of them are just going to crash because they won't be able to handle the signups. And Linden Lab's aware of this. Linden Lab knows that people will complain, and we know, doesn't matter what we do, people are going to complain. But they also know that there is no real competition right now that Linden Lab has to worry about because everybody's here. They had, Linden Lab had the head, the foot in the door first in virtual worlds and made it succeed first. And so this is where most people are, and this is where your friends are, and you're going to continue to come back to where your friends are.
I want to go on a slightly different tangent here at the moment because I'm very interested in terms of the going back to probably about the middle of the conversation so far. When Emerald did what Emerald did, and we won't go through that, right? And then you stepped up to the plate to get the Phoenix viewer project up and running. How did you find that the environment helped or hindered your ability to sort of step into that leadership role?
Good question. So Phoenix was bred out of from me out of the thought of all these people losing this viewer with all these features that they've come to know and love. And, there were only a couple other little viewers out there at the time, third-party viewer projects. I think Imprudence was going. But it just like Phoenix, and we know anybody in Phoenix doesn't want to go to anything else. It was the same kind of deal. And I felt really bad for them. So I thought, and let me tell you, it wasn't easy. When I decided I would do it, I then had a second guessing of whether I should be doing this because I know how much work it was to run the support team and the QA team during the Emerald. And so the thought of running a whole project was just, wait a minute, no, I gotta be nuts. And it took Tanya, Ed Merriman, Tanya Souther from our dev team, Ed Merriman, and a couple others to really kind of push me a little bit just over the edge to say, you gotta try. And that's where I kind of realized, I have to try. At least if I try, I can say that I tried, and then I can sleep at night. I'll be able to sleep at night knowing that I gave it the best that I had, and it either worked or it didn't. And then we formed, the Phoenix project, which is basically the Emerald viewer, but we took all the crap out of it to give the users the same feature set that the Emerald viewer had. And it was interesting because at the time there was a flame war going on between me and Arabella, and blame flinging around. A lot of people didn't know what the heck was going on, or who was doing what, or who was evil, who wasn't. So I was a bit surprised that when we did the first release of the Phoenix Viewer, it instantly picked up, popularity in a crazy way. And especially considering all the trust that was lost from the community in third-party viewers in general. It wasn't just Emerald. Emerald hurt everybody. So I was a bit surprised that it picked up as well as it did, considering that I was associated to the Emerald project. But people, I guess, felt they could trust me, and I'm glad that they did. And thank you for trusting me. And here we are. It's incredible. I can't believe how far we've come.
Yeah. It's interesting seeing the dynamic of people that step into leadership roles inside a virtual environment, because in a lot of cases, from what we've seen anecdotally anyways, I don't think anybody's done a proper research study on this yet, but there are just so many opportunities, to step into a leadership role like that.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound funny to you because you and I both being Canadian, we don't really see this type of stuff. But when you're inside the U.S., and okay, I'm going to apologize up front. I am going to pick on the U.S. for the next 5 minutes here.
Oh dear.
When you're inside the U.S., there are still tons and tons and tons of people that are doing research projects that are talking about the inequality of pay between men and women, the glass ceiling, the inability of women to get ahead. There's just so many social problems around this. Going through my doctoral program, I was surprised at the number of female Black candidates as part of my class that were conducting studies to ask the question whether or not is there equality in the workplace for Black females. And I'm sitting there going, but I'm from Canada. We don't have this problem up here. Right? It's just, it may happen a little bit in certain roles, but nowhere near the type of problems they've got going, especially the deeper south you go into the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things I'm very curious about, because, and I will fully admit this, a lot of people that we've interviewed on here have been male, right?
Right.
From your perspective, from the quote unquote, the imperial female perspective, has Second Life established an environment which essentially shatters that glass ceiling?
I think it does a little bit. The griefer groups have this saying, and not only the griefer groups, but a lot of people have this saying, there are no real women in Second Life. Or there's, the only women in Second Life are men. How does it go? They're men or FBI agents or something like that. Anyway, I think the whole male versus female isn't as prominent in Second Life as it is in certain countries of the world, and we do actually have this problem in Canada too, just not nearly as much. But it's hard to say because I was recently interviewed by a friend for her thesis, and it was about griefing in Second Life with a gendered perspective, and I couldn't say that I've seen a lot of griefing in Second Life. I used to hang out in weapons testing, sandbox weapons testing, and I've had my fill of griefing. I've seen it. And I couldn't say that women get griefed more than men, or that men get griefed more than women. I can say that I can't think of very many women who actually do the griefing, other than trolling, which is a little bit different. I think the gender bias is a little bit less prominent in a virtual world, but it's hard to say. I don't know. I can't say that definitively.
Right. Okay. But in terms of working with virtual teams, are there very specific advantages that you see to this? We're taking,
Well,
so
see,
let's
in
take
real
gender
life,
and everything else out of it, right?
in real life, I could probably get a promotion just by going to work with a really low-cut top. Yeah, but you can't really do that in Second Life, right? Showing a little bit of avatar leg is not going to get you a raise. um,
Not when
so,
everybody's doing it, so.
not when everybody's doing it, right? Yeah, exactly. So,
It's the same
and,
leg over and over again.
yeah,
Right?
it's all the same. Um, I don't know. I mean, I've not gender. I don't think really has come up within our team very much. I know that we have men who are women on our team, and I know we have women who are men on our team, and it really doesn't get talked about. And I think everybody's pretty much treated equally within the project, anyways. So I don't know. It's hard to say, really. It's just not as prominent.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of those things that I guess part of what I see as part of this is through some of the research studies and things that I've seen through other mechanisms. This does come about from time to, I mean, this topic comes up every occasionally, right? I mean, every
Right.
6 months, all of a sudden, boom, there it is again, right? And it's sort of like,
Well,
okay, well,
being-
what's really going on, right? Is it
I mean,
real or is it just
Being
perception?
female might have actually helped with for me with this project, because people tend to trust a woman more than a man, and considering all the trust that was lost during the Emerald debacle, maybe that had something to do with people trusting me. I don't know. I don't know.
Right. So how have you found working with virtual teams at a distance? I mean, I must imagine that the leadership role is very much different from the support role that you were doing before.
One of our, I think it was, who was it? Somebody said it so eloquently the other day. I'm a cat herder. Have you ever tried to herd cats? Because that's what it's like. It's like herding cats. Bev, it was you. That's right.
Cat herding is easy, though. All you have to do is run the can opener.
Yeah, well,
Right.
Unfortunately, it's not just cats. We have wolves, we have foxes, we have cats, we have lions, we have. I think I've got a critter, every kind of critter on this on the project team you can possibly think of. And it's tough. It really is tough, and it may also be tough because they're all volunteers. Everybody's volunteers, so it's not like an employed job where I'm the boss, and if this person wants to get their paycheck, I'm going to say I need you to do this, and it needs to be done on this timeline, and they're going to do it and get it done on that timeline because they want to get their paycheck. It's different with this project. It's different on a volunteer basis, and we have like 80 people on the team, and trying to get them all to do work, it can be tough. And you also got to remember that one of the primary things that motivates a developer, an open source developer who works on a volunteer basis, is scratching their own itches. If something bothers them, they fix it. Not because it bothers necessarily you or me, but because it bothers them. That's what they're going to fix. Chances are, fortunately, it also bothers other people. So when they fix that, other people benefit from it. So it's hard for me to say to one of our devs, look, we need to fix this. It's going to be, a week of solid work to fix this, and it's a feature that particular dev never uses, doesn't even know how to use it, couldn't care less. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. So managing this team is, and this is where I say, when I go to bed at night, I ask myself, what the heck was I thinking? Because it's a lot of work. I've actually been on a bit of a break for the past 3 weeks or so of not poking and prodding and nagging developers, and and I needed the break. I was starting to get burnout, but so yeah, I'm gonna be back, and so our devs better be ready.
The gauntlet's been thrown down.
It's open.
I know we're running out of time here, so I've got other things I'd love to ask, but I'm going to have to leave them till later. So I'm going to just sort of wrap up with this last one, and then we'll have to wrap up. If you had a crystal ball, what would you think the impacts of virtual worlds are going to be on society 5 to 10 years into the future?
Huge. I think absolutely huge, and in fact, And this kind of feeds into what, my friends fear, that, it's destroying the fabric of society and all this stuff. If we can keep it in perspective and combine our real life with our virtual life, and not spend all our time on one or the other, if we can manage a balance, I think it'll be huge for society, a huge benefit. But if we end up, I look at my kids, I look at my daughter, and I see her spending every waking minute on Facebook on her cell phone, and that concerns me, because if it goes that route, then my friend is probably going to be right, and I would hate for him to be right, because I'm always right, and that would mean I was wrong. So I think it depends how we manage it personally, individually, each of us. I try to do a bit of both, and I try to split my real life with my second life, and or in my case now with the viewer stuff. And I think if we can manage the balance, then it'll be good for society, humanity. Philip's goal originally was to improve the human condition, and I think virtual worlds can do that. I think social networks, I hate Facebook, by the way, but just social things like this can actually accomplish that if done in moderation.
Very good. Well, Jessica, I mean, there's a ton of things. I'm actually surprised that the time's gone by so fast, because I've got lots of things I'd like to ask. But unfortunately, if I don't wrap this up, Rob's going to whack me over the head. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up here at this point. That's all we have time available for the broadcast show to get today. I'd like to thank you and invite you to stay for an after-show wrap-up, if you would.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. It's been wonderful having you on the show, and looking forward to good things to come.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. It's been fun. Let's do it again.
Next week.
Okay.
So that's it from the Rockcliffe Rotunda. I would like to thank everyone for being with us today. Inside the Avatar Studio is produced by Bevan Whitfield and Rockcliffe University Consortium. Technical production by Robustus Hacks and Mel Burns in association with Metaverse TV. For more information on Inside the Avatar Studio, please check out our website at avatarstudio.info. or subscribe to our Twitter or Facebook fan page at URockcliffe.